Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to explain and recap a horror movie called The Vigil. The film begins with the explanation of the Vigil, an ancient Jewish tradition. According to tradition, whenever someone dies, it is important to keep an eye on its body till it becomes cremated. For this a man or woman is chosen, which is called shomars. Often there are shomars family members. If no family members are available, then friends, neighbors or anybody can become shomars. Many people also do this as a paid service for which the community pays them. First, we see a jungle-like setting where a black entity is hovering. We see a woman and two men. One guy was forcing the other to kill that woman. Later we see some former Orthodox Jews in a meeting. These people were struggling to adjust to the modern secular world by leaving their religious way of life. This is a self-help organization of such people. The leader of this group was Lazarus. Here we see a man, Yaakov, who was too shy to talk to Sarah, a member of that group. He was a little nervous too. Sarah feeds him her mobile number into his phone. At the end of the meeting, Yaakov's cousin Shulam was waiting outside Lazar's house. Shulam was a rabbi, hence Lazar thought that he might be here to pursue Yaakov to change his decision. He warns him and asks him not to harass his members. Shulam assures him that he is here just on a personal thing, and he has no intention of harassing his group. Later he takes Yaakov with him and says, "Tonight I have a shomar's job for you. Our fellow member, Mr. Litvak, has passed away. He was a Holocaust survivor, and has settled here after the World War II. He is estranged from his children. His children left him, and his wife. She is also struggling with dementia. We had arranged a shomar, but he ran away at the last movement." Shulam knew Yaakov's weakness as Yaakov was short of money, so he offered $300 to keep vigil till morning. Yaakov first refuses as in he had left the religion, but for money shake he accepts it. Yaakov was out of a job, as with everyone, money was his compulsion. Both of them now go to Mr. Litvak's house. Upon seeing Yaakov, Mrs. Litvak said the shomar won't work, he is not suitable. Shulam still insists upon Yaakov as a shomer, and tells him that he will come early in the morning. Mr. Litvak's body was there in the hall. As Mrs. Litvak went to sleep, Yaakov started to pass the time by listening to music in the earphones. He started searching on the internet for the art of talking to a woman. 10 ways to talk to a woman. After some time all sorts of paranormal activities started to happen in this house. Sounds started coming from the ceiling, the rocking chair kept in the corner started to rock on its own. Yaakov checks this by turning on the flash of his mobile, but he sees nothing unusual. The time was 12 a.m., Yaakov got light sleep. He had a dream in which he and his younger brother were walking down the road one night. Some anti-Semitic pricks attacked them and made fun of them. They beat the hell out of Yaakov for fun. Yaakov wakes up with this nightmare where it was almost 1 a.m. He builds some courage in himself and texts a message to Sarah. Apparently, she was awake. Both these guys started chatting when all the night lamps in the house started flickering. I mean, really fast. This distracted Yaakov, he stopped chatting, and as he went to turn off the lamp, the bulb in the lamp exploded. After this, a video clip came to Yaakov's mobile. It was a video of himself when he was sleeping. In the video we see Mrs. Litvak approaching Yaakov, she hovered her hand over his head. Confused, Yaakov started moving towards Mrs. Litvak's room to check on her. On the way he saw a pair of human-like legs near the kitchen. It resembled like a dark entity which spooked him. He turned on his flashlight again, and this time it also disappeared. Yaakov was very afraid of all this, he was in panic. Apparently, he was dealing with some sort of mental issue for which he was on medication. He thought all this was his hallucination. He hurriedly called his doctor, Dr. Colbert, where the call goes through voicemail. He explained his situation and asked him to call back. He had his medicine with him, but as soon as he took it, he started choking. He vomited some strange things. In the midst of all this, a glass kept in the kitchen falls and breaks. Upon hearing this sound, Mrs. Litvak woke up and came down. She saw Yaakov and said, "It's unfortunate that you are here. It's not safe for you. I had driven my children from here, they thought it was their choice, but in reality it was my choice, I had driven them away." Mr. Litvak was a troubled soul, he struggled throughout his life here. While picking up the fallen glass piece on the floor, Mrs. Litvak gets hurt. She started going back to her room in the same condition. She had a sense of deep sadness in her. Yaakov follows her, Suddenly he heard a noise from Mr. Litvak's study room. Upon checking there, a video started playing there on TV. The room was stuffed with papers, files, and books. It seemed that Mr. Litvak was researching something. In the video, Mr. Litvak says, "Today, I will explain my experience with a parasite demon named Mazik." Mazik is a parasite demon who preys on sad souls by possessing his body, and stays with him for the rest of his life. It has been present since an ancient time. I was possessed by it in a Nazi camp. As my grief was too much at that time. 10 years ago I came across an ancient text according to which Mazik can be destroyed only once. One must burn its face on the night one sees it. If not, then it will latch to one's soul for the rest of his or her life. After my death, it will surely hunt someone. Yakov was confused and slightly horrified watching all this, only then his eyes fell on Mrs. Litvak in the video. She was saying something in a low voice. Yakov goes to the TV screen and reads her lip. She was saying, "It's behind you." Yakov turned back. Suddenly a black-colored evil entity attacked him. It had sharp nails. Yakov runs away from that room and calls Dr. Kohlberg. This time Dr. Kohlberg picked up the phone and started talking to him. Yakov explains everything to them, only then the body of Mr. Litvak started shaking a little bit. Dr. Kohlberg asked him in the call what you are seeing. At the same time, Yakov gets another call. This time the real Dr. Kohlberg starts talking to him. Meaning, the earlier call was not from Dr. Kohlberg, it was the demon. It had tricked him. Yakov changed the call to the first number where he heard his younger brother's voice. He asked him, "Why you left me to die?" Yakov was in full panic mode, he was totally confused. Here we see Mrs. Litvak again who says, "It's a demon, it's tricking you, it's showing you your grief and trying to possess you." Yakov was horrified, he started to leave this house, he asked Mrs. Litvak to come with him. But she refuses and says, "This is my house, I won't leave Reuben. You can't leave now as you have seen it, it won't let you go. If you go out, then it will force you to come back." Yakov walks away from the house in anger. When he was a few feet away from the house, then his legs started shaking, his shoulders started twitching. He was in pain, he couldn't move forward, he turned back. Due to the exhaustion, he passed out in the house. Here we get to know that Yakov's brother died that night. While running away from those goons, his brother fell in front of a moving car and died. This guilt was troubling Yakov for many years. He woke up with this memory while crying. Now the dead body of Mr. Litvak suddenly started moving, it shape-shifted to resemble Yakov's brother. Yakov apologized to him. Later the body disappeared from there, it was also the trick of the same demon. Yakov now decides that he will take this demon head-on. He takes tefillin from Mrs. Litvak. Tefillin is a small black box with Jewish religious scrolls. It has many straps with it, which religious Jewish people pray on. Mrs. Litvak gave Yakov a candle with which he entered the room where Mr. Litvak's body was there. He goes on ahead with chanting the religious prayer Shama. The demon starts scaring him, it started tricking him, it started shape-shifting, it took the shape of Yakov. Yakov controls his fear and finally sets the fire on the demon's face. The demon in agony starts to leave Mr. Litvak's body. Here we are shown a flashback which we saw at the beginning. Mr. Litvak was imprisoned in a Nazi camp. An officer ordered him to shoot another prisoner. As Mr. Litvak shot, the demon possessed him. It was preying on sadness and guilt. In the house, Yakov continues his chanting and, finally, the demon leaves his body and frees his soul. Mrs. Litvak thanks Yakov. She was sad but also happy as Mr. Litvak's soul was freed. In the morning, Shulam, the mortician, and many other people arrive to do the last rites. Shulam asks Yakov to come back to the faith. To which Yakov refuses and leaves. So this is where the film ends. This is a good horror film which uses Jewish religious concepts. Talk about Mazik, in Jewish folklore it is called a sinner's soul. Such a soul which is not qualified to go to abode of God. Such souls live like a parasite by possessing the souls of common people. There are many ways of exorcism against it, expert rabbi do it. At the end of the film, Yakov was convinced of religion but he wanted to live the modern way of life. That's why he refused to return to his old way of life. So if you liked the video, then please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Take care.